Every day, I wake up determined to deliver a better life for the people all across this nation that have been ignored, neglected, and abandoned. Well, the truth is a force of nature. It's going to come out. It's all coming out. Hang in there. The end of my next 4 years, the warmongers and frauds and failures of the senior ranks of our government will all be gone.
Do not be fearful that you could lose your job over it.
Well, that was former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy giving his farewell speech to Congress Thursday, and you didn't really have to read between the lines to hear what he was saying. McCarthy happens to be among a growing list of congressional members opting not to return to Capitol Hill. So far, 7 senators and 22 representatives are not seeking re-election. People you see on your screen here, 29 members of Congress are deciding to step away from politics altogether. Bob Cusack, editor-in-chief at The Hill, is joining us right now. Bob, McCarthy may be an exception because he was ousted, something we haven't seen in about a century. But is this particular number any higher than we usually see?
Well, Adrian, it's pretty high, and it's going to go higher.
Now to that surprise announcement today from Senator Joe Manchin, the moderate West Virginia Democrat, saying he will not run for re-election.
Well, CBS 17 was the first to break the news this morning that Central North Carolina Representative Wiley Nickel will not seek re-election.
After serving for nearly 3 decades, Congressman Peter King says he will not seek re-election next year.
Senator Mitt Romney says he is not seeking re-election. The Republican from Utah posted a video on social media saying it is time for a new generation of leaders.
We got a little breaking 2022 news. Kentucky Democratic Congressman and the chair of the Budget Committee, John Yarmuth, says he will not seek re-election next year.
New York Congressman George Santos will not run for re-election. He made the announcement shortly after the House Ethics Committee released a report on its probe into the Republican lawmaker.
We have more tonight on a decision that's sure to shock Washington and folks here in Northeast Wisconsin. U.S. Congressman Mike Gallagher, who represents Wisconsin's 8th district, announcing today that he will not run for re-election in November. This unexpected decision to step down comes as Gallagher is at the height of his political career.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One of the most prominent Republican critics of former President Donald Trump is bowing out of Congress. U.S. Representative Adam Kinzinger announced on Friday that he would not seek re-election in 2022.
As of Tuesday, 38 members of Congress, including 7 members of the Senate and 31 members of the House, have announced they will not seek re-election in 2024. 13 of those announcements came in November alone. That's the highest monthly total in more than a decade.
Fox 31 confirming Congressman Doug Lamborn is not going to seek re-election.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has just announced she will not seek re-election for Democratic leadership in the next caucus.
Gallagher says he will not run for re-election in November.
76-year-old Democratic Senator Tom Carper of Delaware has announced he will not seek re-election next year.
And we're going to begin with breaking news this noon. Senator Pat Toomey is ready to leave public office after he finishes out his current term. He announced he will not be running for re-election in 2022 and will also not be running for governor.
All right. We do have this news just into us. Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan announced just moments ago she is not running for re-election in 2024.
Republican Senator Richard Shelby on Monday said he would not seek re-election for a 7th term in 2022.
We want to start with breaking news.
Longtime California Senator Dianne Feinstein makes it official. She will not run for re-election in 2024.
A political shocker today. Senator Rob Portman announced he is not running for re-election next year.
Now live breaking news from KCTV 5 News.
That breaking news is bound to shake up Washington in 2020. After decades in Congress, Kansas Senator Pat Roberts has decided to call it a career. The 82-year-old says he will not run for another term.
Flake's family is talking exclusively to 12 News tonight, revealing how they found out about the big bombshell.
Team 12's Antonia Mejia joins us now with what they're saying tonight.
Guys, Flake's family was not aware of his choice to not seek re-election until minutes before we all learned about it. They are fully supporting him, but are also sad he's giving up his seat in the Senate.
Senate's longest-serving member says he is not running for re-election. 81-year-old Vermont Democrat Patrick Leahy is set to retire at the start of 2023. Leahy is the first Democrat to announce he will not seek re-election next year, joining 5 other Republicans.
Senator, when I opened my email and saw the notification that you will not seek re-election, I don't know if I was completely surprised, but it certainly makes a big change in the landscape of politics.
Today, Oregon's new Secretary of State, LaVon Griffin Valade, made her first major ruling. She says that state lawmakers who had 10 or more unexcused absences during this past legislative session will not be allowed to run for re-election in 2024.
Breaking news, the Oregon Supreme Court just ruled that state senators who walked out of the Oregon legislature cannot seek re-election.
You might remember during last year's legislative session, a group of 10 senators took part in a Republican-led walkout. Well, now it looks like they will not be allowed on the ballot this year. Fox 12's Bonnie Silkman is live in studio with much more on what this means. Bonnie?
Yeah, good morning. 10 Oregon senators who took part in the longest legislative walkout in state history are now being barred from running for re-election. We've never seen this before. It's the first time this has happened in the state. It's all because of a new state law. That ruling, by the way, just handed down from the state Supreme Court. So all of this is a developing story. So this unanimous decision really came down to Measure 113, which voters passed in November of 2022.
Senator Rob Portman has announced he will not be seeking re-election in 2022. The Republican from Cincinnati has served in the Senate since 2011.
Let's begin with Capitol Hill. That news about Paul Ryan. Joining me now, MSNBC's Garrett Hake. Garrett, we have seen this long line of people deciding not to run again. Now Paul Ryan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Chris, no name bigger than Paul Ryan telling staff and friends and others in Congress just recently that he has decided he will not seek re-election this year.
It is a bombshell announcement with the fallout continuing tonight. What happens now that U.S. Senator Bob Corker has decided not to run for re-election next year?
After nearly 2 decades in the U.S. Senate, Lamar Alexander will not seek re-election.
Jane Nelson of Flower Mound, the longest-serving current Senate Republican, announced this afternoon she will not seek re-election next year.
An Indiana State Senate's former Democratic leader says he won't seek re-election next year. Senator Tim Lannon of Anderson will leave the legislature after 24 years.
Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy made a surprising announcement Monday.
I will not be seeking another term as your representative in Congress. This was not an easy decision, but it was the right decision.
Derek Kilmer says he will not seek re-election.
Just weeks after serving as the interim Speaker of the House, North Carolina House Republican Patrick McHenry is calling it quits, saying he will not seek re-election and will soon retire from Congress. His decision is the latest major shakeup as candidates file to run for office this week. Lawsuits also loom.
Representative Anna Eshoo says she won't run for re-election next year.
New tonight, Republican State Senator Mike Regan has announced he is not seeking re-election. 11 News has learned Senator Ben Cardin is not seeking re-election. Cardin's Senate term ends in January of 2025. The now 80-year-old's departure sets up a rare vacancy.
She was the first female mayor of Fort Worth, the first Republican woman to represent Texas in Congress, and perhaps the only American to greet the Queen just hours after assuming a political office. After 4 decades in politics, Kay Granger is retiring from Congress.
We start the noon hour with breaking news out of Washington. Republican Congressman Ken Buck has announced that he will not be seeking re-election next year.
Some of those in power now are jumping ship. They're saying see. Patrick McHenry, for example, who he's now calling it quits, announcing that he will not run for re-election.
And then one by one, they disappeared.
We have made America safe again, and we will make America great again.
I am your voice.
As long as we have faith in each other and trust in God, then there is no goal at all beyond our reach. There is no dream too large, no task too great. We are Americans, and the future belongs to us. The future belongs to all of you.
And I will let you know in the absolute strongest of terms, we're going to make America great again, and I will never, ever, ever let you down. Thank you very much.
And now we're going to complete the mission